This live presentation was produced in Ashland, Oregon by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. RVML relies on the support of our volunteers, members, and donors to organize and present these programs. For more information about this presentation, or to borrow, download, or purchase other recordings from our catalog, please visit our website at rvml.org.
Inspiration, which happens to me a lot. Can you not hear back there? Okay. And what that is that an idea comes up and I can't help myself, and it gets done, and it gets done very quickly. So we came together in about a two, realized is that this is about healing in the way that used to be done within tribes and communities, and in a very evolved way. This is about addressing many different facets of a being, and about really, as adult people are still experiencing things due to the shock and the trauma that our mothers were in and were carrying when we were in their womb, before we were in their womb, and in their birthing process.
Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Benjamin Grunde. My license to touch is as a massage therapist, licensed in partaking in the sharing of experience that took place. And so I'm excited for all of us this time again, although by what I do, because I always address the whole person, the whole environment in treatment. It goes beyond just touch. It goes beyond healing traditions that we derive from acupuncture. So starting with that, I suppose, just because it's off the tip of my tongue, with two teachers, two of Ohashi's students, who have taken this form of acupressure, working with the energy channels through the body and balancing the internal. And so one of my teachers practiced primarily on the land. His name is Seymour Coblin. My other teacher, Harold Dull, practiced primarily shiatsu form of acupressure and stretching and gentle movement, and brings it into warm water. So the recipient is held afloat. Of the recipients of Watsu, liken it to being in the womb. And just in that, it's a very valuable experience to get back in touch with. So for a pregnant woman, this is a wonderful experience, because she gets to get into touch with what that child within is feeling at that very moment. And also that addresses musculoskeletal complaints much more directly than traditional shiatsu practice has generally. And so for pregnant mothers, improved sleep and so forth. That's the eastern side. The western side is more of that neuromuscular massage. It's a way of exactly what's happening in the body, and also supports the process of unwinding trauma and paths back. I practice a form of organic unwinding of those tensions that works to be, on a more permanent level, works to help us. As far as therapeutic massage for pregnancy, all of these are good, and the good old-fashioned rub down is as well tonight, as you hear the other speakers discuss this nurturing of the mother and how important that is, listening to the mother and letting. And that's what I seek to increase in this world through my work. So thank you for listening to my sharing. And
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Ann Herrick, and I am a craniosacral therapist. And craniosacral therapy is a manual therapy tech, and I've done a lot of work on my own process in that way. So I bring an understanding from my own inside process to the work that I do with babies. Birth is a compressive experience, no matter extreme or, possibly traumatic birth process. But I really believe that all babies can benefit from craniosacral therapy, and encourage people always to bring babies, because the work I do is really left over from the birth process. And for the most part, after receiving the work, you'll see babies seem to settle into themselves more and become more relaxed and be more present in their. I am a registered craniosacral therapist with the Craniosacral Therapy Association of North America, which I know is a big mouthful, but I have brochures in the back, and I have the website address on there. And we're free, if you don't catch me tonight, to call me and ask me about other ways that you could learn about how this technique could be helpful for babies. And just kind of wanted to give you a face to go with my name and let you know that I'm available to.
Therapy and hypnobirthing. Probably most of you are familiar with hypnotherapy. As a little background, hypnotherapy works with the subconscious. We can directly talk to the subconscious and the conscious. I'm also a very experienced mediator, so I've developed a system called intermediation, where I directly, whoever I'm working with has specialized attention through what I'm feeling that they are feeling, even if they don't know how to put, or having an intention of something will create the same amount of brain activity as if you're actually doing that. There were studies done on prisoners of war in Vietnam, men who in their little 4x4 bottle. That's been taken even further now with the work of Dr. Emoto of Japan, which I'm sure a lot of people here know about the water crystallization and how the water formed either very beautiful crystals, or our subconscious is holding as information, is affecting everything that we do and how we see what we do in our life processes. When I look at hypnotherapy, what I see, all of us have been hypnotized with movies and medical people and even well-intending relatives, and even some. So in hypnobirthing, what is presented is more than just visualization. It is an internationally acclaimed art and science now of birthing, of birth. And they're taught how to return to that sacred knowing and to hear that sacred guidance, so that they can feel and hear what their body needs when it needs it, and not just accept a trained doula. And I offer that for women who are interested in birthing in this new paradigm. So this is a very, very essential form of birthing, and from then on. With hypnofertility therapy, it's a different process in that statistics show that in vitro fertilization, and it needs to be treated that way. So in hypnofertility therapy, we bring the heart more alive in the womb, and we help the woman understand how to reduce that stress. My focus is not to try to get the woman pregnant. It's for her to gain that sense of serenity about a higher order and a higher timing. It may be time for her to conceive, and it may. Statistics say that with this type of therapy, with IVF, in vitro fertilization, there's 3 times more conception and delivery rates, 3 times higher. And I think the main thing that I would also like to stress is that the reason why I formed this group and the reason why this holds a strong feeling for me is because I know through some really serious challenges that I've been starting with birthing, and every moment of our life needs to be cherished. And by returning to that sacred intuition in everything we do, we can help transform this planet at an accelerated rate.
Accupunturist here in Ashland, and I'm also an herbalist. I do a lot of nutritional counseling in my practice, and I do a lot of, well, it's kind of the same story, get some temporary relief, then it would just kind of come back. And I finally went to one chiropractor who happened to also be an acupuncturist, and she said, well, I think acupuncture would be really helpful. And I didn't know why, and I didn't have any memories associated with it, but I knew it felt really good to let that out of my body. And right from that moment, I knew I just had to learn how to do that. I was so mystified. There's some flyers here and some brochures for you to read and a coupon for an initial visit. Just want to let everyone know that's there. But acupuncture in Chinese medicine has been used a really long time for women who are for the treatment. For women who are trying to get pregnant, just like Alaya said, fertility, HypnoBirthing or HypnoFertility can help. So can acupuncture and Chinese herbs. It can really help increase fertility. Those who have been pregnant or been around a pregnant woman, you know, you can't take a lot of the over-the-counter supplements and drugs. So acupuncture is a great way to work with colds and flus. It's a great way to work, get the moods back together and increase the energy. So it works really great for that. And for children, I treat colds and flus a lot, earaches, sometimes sleeping problems. But just on a testimonial note, I have to say that it's really fitting that I'm here tonight because a year ago I was having a baby on this very day, and Rion was my midwife, and she did a great job. I just have to. And then maybe about 2 months later, we were getting some more treatments from Benjamin. So I've worked with several of these people here, and they're top quality. So sometimes it's nice to have a network of people like this because sometimes. Its finger on. You know, sometimes children that have like hives or really red in the face or can't settle down, sometimes just a couple treatments can just fix that, and they don't need to keep coming. It just kind of turns it around for them, and sometimes can just turn it around for them. You know, acupuncture is the fastest growing modality in the West right now. It's really just up and coming. Insurances are covering it more.
Right. I'll explain it real quickly. An osteopath is a physician who is certified to be a physician just like an MD is. We go to the same amount of school. The schooling is a little bit deep. It was started in the 1870s by an MD named Andrew Taylor Still, who felt that the leeches and the mercury and the things that allopathic medicine was using in those days may have been in one part of the body might be affecting something that's going on in the other part of the body. For example, someone who's got an issue with their foot may not be complaining about their foot, they may be complaining of neck pain. And I'm so happy to be a part of this group because conception and birth and breastfeeding and each of those cells has organelles. Each of those organelles has molecules, and each of those molecules is made of atoms, and it is mind-blowing and twist and differentiate, with some cells forming skin, other cells forming bone, other cells forming brain. It's absolutely miraculous. And man and woman have to be in a certain condition in order for those cells to be able to come together properly. So what I do in my practice is, as I said, I'm an integrative physician. So I may be a stumbling block that people may need to get over, be they food allergies, sensitivities, functional medicine issues in their intestines, candida, various things. And see, I do osteopathic manipulation, which and there are many different forms of manipulation. I do very gentle types, soft tissue types, craniosacral being one of them, any kind of nutrition counseling that they may need along the way. Am I forgetting anything here? Nope. Little babies. And I've never seen Anne work with little babies, but I imagine I've heard wonderful things about what you do. But I can't say enough about the importance of you know.
I'm Sheryl Grunde, and I am the wife of Benjamin, who was sitting amazing. And I love that the first thing that my daughter saw was Rion's hands. I was just remembering that as she was playing with Rion's hands. Women with young babies. Yoga is about creating connections, connections between the mind and the body, so that we can be mindful of our bodies and notice how we're using babies, and we're going to know other mothers who have babies, and our babies know each other right now, being in the wombs together. And the movement is so wonderful for them to be moving in these ever-changing and just moving and experiencing how does my body feel today? How does it feel to take a breath? Stretching a little bit, strengthening, remembering that you still have muscles in the body. And I can say from my birth experiences that I don't know how anyone can do it who isn't in touch with how their body moves and how their body breathes. And so many women do, and just say, turn me off because I don't want to be part of it. It's so much fun to see the babies grow. Every week they get 10 times bigger, it seems like. And so I'm also developing a class right now. I aren't in other cultures, and my focus is carrying your babies around, wearing your baby, nursing your baby, sleeping with your baby, really living with your baby. And so that class is in the works, and you will all hear about it when it comes out if you're interested. And I have some flyers about the yoga classes back there. And my website is Mama Yoga.
Okay, so we'll take a break after we
Okay. I'm Sheryl, and thanks. Rion Zaychel. And been a midwife for about 24 people that we work with. Maybe that's obvious. And I'm very honored to do that work. It's definitely a calling. Drugged. Women seem to be asleep to the fact that, of course, and I see this all the time, but women who work with midwives who birth at home are more apt. We can experience that, but that's maybe me, or like you, I can just so beautiful in front of me here, like would obviously know that when you get pregnant, it's the most important thing, and you have to listen, and get pregnant now, and oh, what do? You look in the yellow pages, you find a doctor, you go, and then you're part of the factory. Really, I'm not kidding you. There's a way that birth happens now, and it's talking about that. One of the ways that I've found is really effective to change that whole thing is HypnoBirthing, and her programming's about birth, because we're just saturated with that stuff. That doesn't need to be true. And I actually have a carder in the back there. The HypnoBirthing class is 5 2.5-hour classes. What else do I want you to know? New now, which has come out of my work with sacred dance. And I've developed an offering as a sharing circle of women who either want to. So thank you. It's so sweet to have everyone giving me your loving attention. And thanks for pulling this together. Yeah.
Because for the last 3 years I've been training with Dr. William Emerson, who is to the peri and prenatal world what Fritz Perls of Gestalt therapy was to the humanistic movement. This culture doesn't really value or want to know what happens to our babies. And what my little talk is tonight is about what happens when we don't care, what trauma in adults. The shock and the trauma that you hold in your bodies from the earliest preconception times through your birth. Renates were sentient beings. They were conscious. They felt, and what they felt was the mother, that the mother and they were one. What the mother felt, the prenate felt. It was. So you have a baby who is a little girl, but they want a boy. That little girl knows There isn't. The body is overwhelmed. Your little beingness is overwhelmed. And the shock body is all over, so that when one little aspect of shock is triggered, the entire shock body is, which is very different. One of the most difficult shocks to treat and heal. Adoption, the abandonment. That prenate knows the moment it's going to be given up. Children tend to recapitulate in the birth of their children, the birth wounds that we had. So if there's a shocking event, like when my daughter was born, I hemorrhaged, and she went, it helps when we do our own birth work, that the children we birth will not have to go through that again. I think I know how to do that. And I listen to all of you and what you bring into that prenatal phase, and I'm so excited and so happy that it's out there and it's happening. And it makes through a very gentle regressive process that takes you back right into the prenatal state. It's very easy. It's very easy, and the work that I do is about integrating you as your adult self, actually reparenting the prenate within you. So there is a moment in time when you are the prenate, when you are in that experience. Yeah. Yeah. How long does that process take generally? You know, it really depends. It depends on how much trauma there is in your lives for that to occur, at which time we're really exploring what happened in your birth. You're intuiting what your mother's experience was and what yours was. And we look at birth languaging. What language you use in your mouth, or this with your tongue tells me something. So it's really an exploration in the beginning as to where the shock is and knowing exactly where we're going to go with it.
And I don't know how many of you have ever heard of that or have heard of Dr. David Hawkins and his work. Anybody here? Well, I do very similar work. We use the muscle, so much of what's now being termed the precautionary principle. Have any of you heard of that? The precautionary principle is an idea that actually started in Germany and has moved its way around the world. This simple concept, however, applied to our culture, the way we look at birthing, the way we look at each other, the way we look at medicine, is revolutionizing. Kinesiology ties in so beautifully with that. It's very powerful, it's very simple. I'll be glad to answer questions about it. I know we've been here a long time, so I'm not going to go into details. I just want to share one more thing with you. It is going to retail for $36. It's a very extensive, comprehensive exploration of how we can walk on this planet honoring all life, that of yourself. So, thank you.
The floor is now open for any questions.
The divine blueprint of how we were actually made would lead me to devolved, or because of the way we live, have our bodies changed. If anyone would like to speak to that, because
And it's what we teach and learn about in hypnobirthing. It's like, how did we get this way? Because we've all seen the TV shows where the woman's screaming and I hate you and don't birth in and experience ecstatic states, and women can birth their first babies easily and calmly and comfortably and say, I have a practice where I do not use drugs, but these are women who have prepared themselves in a way that they have dealt with. We have absorbed over generations. Long ago, we were told as women that we should be afraid and that we would be. And over generations, the message has gotten through that be afraid. A woman who was were goat gelders,
people who had knives who could cut a baby out and get a live baby and christen it for the church and leave the woman to die. And made it true. And as Glenda said, we recapitulate that. So hypnobirthing deals with that in a deep way, and also just with the power of the mind.
It's a magical being that we are, and the intricacies of the mind and the subconscious and the soul and the spirit and all the layers that are affected by not only this realm, and we clamp down, we contract down around that. So the whole subject of how do we deprogram or dehypnotize ourselves from this massive amounts of programming that has not only my awareness to my own process, how do I work, how do I open my heart, how do I open my mind, how do I be mindful, aware, is starting the process for everybody else, because we're all things going on. And it just has to start somewhere, and it starts with the awareness. So hypnobirthing is a start. It's a small start. It has great power and liberating effects, and it's one small place where we've never been. We're still primitive. We were once very, very evolved, and we're just starting to return to what we're truly designed, as you say, the blueprint.
The dominator trance, the idea that we don't have our own power, that we're not whole and complete, that we can't birth, that we can't conceive, that we can't do things without someone. I tend to think that we learned a lot through that process, and that it's time for us to now evolve out of that, and that's where we're headed. My own life is a perfect example. I've had 3 children. Whatever journey we need to go through to discover that inner power, that wholeness.
Young women and our young men, but we need to get to those young women in the high school who know that having a baby is, lots of fun and da-da-da-da, and at least it's okay to be a girl child, where so many countries wouldn't allow that. But the beginning isn't when we decide to have a child. The beginning is as a child, to bring this forth and to know. And though I had no one to tell me anything about birthing, and I went through 4 children with saddle blocks, I was never afraid, so I made it through. That you've created will extend yourselves to see how it can get first out into our community and then to the larger communities. And I know some of our European who make that choice, and to know it's okay.
I'd be interested in, through some of the things I could figure out, but where I could go study, the motions and, the show and tell things.
Back of the book, you could just leaf through and take notes. Okay.
I want to say thank you to the opportunities that come along, and I'm hoping that we will continue to not only refer people through this network, but continue to meet and continue to expand what we're doing. And
the memory was of being in my labor with my first baby, and I said, help. And she didn't say anything. She just looked back at me, and she looked into my eyes, that there was no separation. And I said afterwards, motherhood is like this secret cleaner. Not had that experience. It's outrageous. So yeah, into the schools. Yeah.
RVML Resource Center is a volunteer-operated federal 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization. RVML is dedicated to providing easy access to a comprehensive collection of information on a variety of metaphysical, spiritual, and personal development subjects. RVML accepts and appreciates all donations. Material and monetary contributions are fully tax-deductible. This recording is not copyrighted and permission is granted to broadcast, exhibit, or duplicate all or part of this program for non-commercial educational purposes. This live presentation was organized and presented by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. For more information, please visit rvml.org.